Hi, it's the M.L.M for the Soul Channel, and I do have a new topic for today. Before I begin, I just would like to say, may the words and expressions of my mouth and the thoughts and meditations of my heart find favor and acceptance for you, Hashem. On some people I thank who've inspired me. I hope they can inspire you as well. And I will have links below this video to their sites. They are Rabbi Shalom Arush, Rabbi Lazer Brody, Rabbi Yosef Mizrahi, Rabbi Eli Mansour, Rabbi Elon Anava, Rabbi Yuval Ovadia, Rav Daniel Asore, Nisan Baruch Black, David Sachs, Rabbi Michael Skobach, Jews for Judaism, Rabbi David Asher, and Rabbi Ron Ruvain. As well, if you've never checked out this channel before, I will have a link right below this video to my first video, which explains what M.L.M for the Soul means, what it stands for, and what I'm doing. So last week's video was part one of the insights on Pesach or Passover from the Artscroll Machzor that I have here. This is the pocket size. It's a series of Machzors that you get for the holidays. And it had a really nice overview, so I thought that would be nice to share that information with you. So I am up to, I will have a link below to Artscroll also to check out all they offer. So this is, I guess, numeral 2, Roman numeral 2, and then I have a third one which will be after Pesach, but I thought I would just split it up into 3. So this one is called the underlying hand, and this section of the overview is based on Das Tivunos by Rab Moshe Chaim Lutzato. If you never heard of him, you might have heard of what he's known as the Ramchal. He's written many books, The Path to the Just and others, and he was a Kabbalist quite a number of years ago. He lived a short life, but very profound to check out some of his works. So Hashem's guidance of history as it moves towards his goal of creation takes 2 primary forms. 1, Midat Mishpat, which is the attribute of justice, and 2, Midat HaMemshala HaYechidis, the attribute of the attribute of domination of Hashem's oneness. So this is also called 2 ways, just so you know. The first form is the logical one that we were raised with, and it is one of the Rambam's 13 principles of faith. This is the rule of schar v'onesh, reward and punishment. Hence, you do something, there's an effect, a cause and effect meaning also. So we expect to see good reward and evil punished. When this happens, the righteous are exalted, for we see the efficacy of their behavior, and the wicked are downtrodden, for it is clear that their behavior is displeasing to Hashem. So then Hashem's name is sanctified, for we see his will upheld and reinforced in the functioning of his universe. Such divine conduct in itself is a boon to humanity because it controls evil, and if people are willing to learn from the obvious, it diminishes sinful behavior. So therefore, when you see the fruits of what you do, if you do good, there's results, then it makes everyone see that as well. So, but if instead of seeking to do good and learn the lessons of Hashem's reward and punishment, people choose to gratify themselves against Hashem's will, and they slip into the sloth of vegetating instead of striving for spiritual moral advancement, then Hashem withdraws, as it were, from close supervision of the world's affairs. So if you come closer to God or to Hashem, I should say, by doing mitzvahs. So when you don't, you go further and further away. So Hashem withdraws as if he's moving away from us. So if people are not deserving of Hashem's intimate supervision of their deeds, he no longer rewards and punishes in an obvious way. When that happens, the world is clouded by Hester Panim, which is concealment of Hashem's countenance. These are the times when Jews wonder, where is Hashem? Like again, you say that like during the Holocaust. And when there is fuel to feed the passion of those who blaspheme that there is no Hashem, Rahman al-Islam, and also heaven forbid. A classic time of such concealment was during the period of the Babylonian exile. It was the first time a temple had been destroyed and the people driven on a stream of blood from their land into slavery and degradation. This was a new condition in Jewish history, and some of the nation's most distinguished young men came to the prophet Yechezkel to ask if they were still required to show allegiance to Hashem. They figured, Hashem left them. After all, they argued in all sincerity, had not Hashem banished them from his presence like a husband who divorced his wife or a master who freed his slave? And if so, did this not mean that the covenant between Hashem and Israel had been permanently severed and we were no longer his people? From Sanhedrin 105a. Such is the pernicious effect of concealment of Hashem's countenance when he is too hidden to be perceived, meaning since he's so far away, they figured, I guess we don't have to do for him anymore, right? That's what they thought. So wicked, dishonest people appear to be ascendant everywhere, degrading values that we hold dear and subjugating good and sincere people. Such times can drive good people to hopelessness and despair, can make them wonder whether there is any point in attempting to serve a seemingly uncaring Hashem, Creator. They figure he's far away from us. Why do we need to do anything for him? So the next section is called Unseen Presence. But even then, Hashem does not cease to regulate the world and move it towards his ultimate goal. The attribute of judgment may not be visible, but beneath the surface, the attribute of domination of Hashem's oneness is always active. The quintessential example of such an era in history is the first 2,000 years of the world's existence. The sage referred to it as Shnei Alafim Tohu, 2,000 years of desolation, according to Sanhedrin 97:8. The Torah had not yet been given, so the primary source of holiness was lacking in the world. In later times of spiritual degradation, Israel and its Torah were present to cast shafts of light here and there into the world in times as dark as the Babylonian exile, or the more recent traumatic terrors that had shattered Jewry, but not for those first 2 millennia. Abraham was born in the year 1948 from creation, and at the end of the first 2,000 years, he began to usher in the next epoch, the 2,000 years of Torah. And during those early years, the world lacked the merit that Torah study and mitzvah observance would give it in subsequent times. And humanity fell swiftly from its noble origins, as the early chapters of Genesis or Bereshis describe. Hardly was it a time of divine inactivity, however. Hashem was relatively invisible, but as the Torah shows us, he was preparing the way for the emergence of Abraham and his chosen people. Thus it always is when his countenance is hidden. Behind the scenes, Hashem continues to provide sustenance to the world while he guides history toward his foreordained goals. So even if he's, quote unquote, hidden, he's still doing things behind the scenes. Things are going on. We just don't notice them. Chronologically, the Egyptian exile took place after the 2,000 years of desolation. Yaakov and his family descended to Egypt in 2238, but those 210 years in Egypt were the most intense of all periods of divine concealment, and therefore the domination of Hashem's oneness. Even though Hashem's presence was so cloaked as to be invisible, he was covertly preparing the way for Israel's perfection, freedom, and giving of the Torah. So they had to be prepared. They had to be merit to have that happen. That is why the sages placed the period of the Egyptian slavery into the 2,000 years of Torah, because amid the apparent absence of justice, Hashem was paving the way for the emergence of his glory in the blinding brilliance of Mount Sinai or Har Sinai. Another period of such hiddenness, though less intense, was the period of the Babylonian exile, as noted above. Then too Hashem was there, unnoticed, guiding events for the eventual downfall of Haman and the command to rebuild the temple. It is altogether common in the broad sweep of history that we do not understand the purpose of events until their entire sequence is complete and their interrelationship becomes known. Same thing in our own lives. We see things happen and we can't always relate because we're taking a small part of the whole picture, so we can't really see the whole picture. Just like they say, if you're starting to paint a picture, I just thought of this, and you only see a little bit, you don't realize it's going to become this magnificent masterpiece because you're just seeing like a little sketching happening in it. You're not seeing the whole thing in its completion. Okay, in the story of Pesach, for example, there is no doubt that Jews must have grieved that the infant boy of Amram and Yocheved, leaders of the people, should have been abandoned on the Sea of Reeds and then swallowed in Paro's palace to be raised as an oppressor of his own people. Only 80 years later did it become known that Hashem was using Paro himself to raise Moshe, the eventual redeemer of Israel. In the time of Purim, how revolted the Jewish people must have been that their sister Esther, whose righteous, chaste, virtuous Esther, should have been compelled to become the consort of the Jew-hating Achashverosh. It doesn't seem, correct, right? But 5 years later, she emerged as their savior, and years after that, her son Darius, or Daryavesh in Hebrew, ordered the construction of the second temple. The same temple whose construction Achashverosh had once halted. So it came around full circle that her own son, from Achashverosh, actually was the one who ordered it to be the second Beis HaMikdash to be built. Many other instances can be cited of how during these two periods events moved towards wholly unanticipated manifestations of Hashem's providence. These outcomes prove that Hashem was actively involved at the very time that his presence was undetected. So I'm not mentioning him here, they don't, but just so you know. So that's what it is, how even though you didn't see him, Hashem was still actively involved. Hashem never disdains his handiwork. When it seems that he ignores his universe, he's actually creating new forms of good for the world. Because everything he does is good, and he constantly seeks to benefit his creatures, as the sages said. And I'm just going to read this in English. This is from Bereshis Rabbah 91:13. Israel said to his sons when he learned that he was required to send Binyamin to Egypt, "Why have you done evil to me?" That's from Bereshis. Said Rabbi Levi in the name of Chama Bar Chanina, Yaakov never said anything in vain except here. The Holy One, blessed is he, said, I am engaged in making his son the ruler of Egypt. And he says, why have you done evil to me? Meaning it doesn't seem correct, right? So clearly, the entire time that Yaakov was suffering over his loss of Yosef, Hashem was arranging the circumstances for Yosef to ease the way for his family when they went to their unavoidable exile in Egypt. His presence was unseen, meaning Hashem, capital H, capital P, but he, Hashem, was working diligently behind the scenes, sowing the future with his, Hashem's, mercy and forethought. So as you see, as the title of this section was called, the underlying hand, meaning that Hashem underneath it all was doing everything for the good. So I hope and pray that we can all contribute to doing things for the good, and that we will all merit to live and see the coming of Mashiach speedily in our days, and the rebuilding of our final and everlasting Beis HaMikdash. Amen. And thanks for watching.